Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's program. We're going to explore the Clinton Presidential Library and Museum. We're going to take a virtual trip to the Clinton Presidential Library and Museum located within the Clinton Presidential Center and Park. The center includes the Clinton Foundation in the Little Rock office and the University of Arkansas Clinton School of Public Service. In addition to the archival collections and research facilities, the Clinton Presidential Library and Museum features exhibits that utilize documents, photographs, videos, and interactive stations. The museum includes replicas of the Oval Office and the Cabinet Room. A timeline highlights domestic and foreign policy, while other exhibits focus on life in the White House. And today's presentation is led by Kathleen Page, who's the education specialist at the Clinton Presidential Library. And I again want to thank the libraries in Ashland, Andover, Groveland, Clinton, and Lowell for partnering with Tewksbury for today's event. So all 50 plus of us, let's give a big virtual round of applause to Kathleen for joining us this afternoon. And Kathleen, you can take it away. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Robert. I am delighted to be here talking about one of my favorite subjects, which is the library where I work. So I am going to share my screen, and unless I see otherwise in the chat, I'm going to assume that you can see it.
We can see it.
Perfect. All right. But you know what? It's not, hang on. I'm going to do it just a little bit different.
No problem. And while you're getting set up, I wanted to acknowledge that we have folks from Haverhill, Burlington, Groveland. Let's see, who'd I miss? Shrewsbury and Medford as well. So that's great.
All right. So almost got this like I want it. I'm gonna switch.
It looks good on our end, Kathleen, but can you not see your notes? Is that the issue?
Well, here's the thing. Here's the funny thing. I'm in the office, so I have dual monitors, which you think would make things easier, but it actually, I need to move my presentation over so that I am looking at the camera and not talking like this.
Sure.
But we may just have to make it work. Okay, let's see what this does. That is not what I want. Feel free to edit this out later.
You were great. You were great during the practice, Kathleen.
I know. Should have left it up. Okay. All right, that's awesome. Now I can't see it at all.
That's okay.
Oh, there it is. Okay, let's see if we can just scoot that over. Okay, we're just going to roll with this.
Right. So actually, Kathleen, now we can't see the slideshow at all.
Oh, great. Let me try this one more time. Okay. How about now?
Perfect. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to leave it alone. All right. Okay. So thank you, Robert, for that introduction. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Excited to be here today. We're going to take a tour of the Clinton Library, so a virtual visit, if you will. As Robert mentioned, I'm the education specialist here, so I get to work with all of the students and teachers that come to the library, and we will actually be welcoming our first group of students back on site next Friday the 29th. So very excited about that. It's been a long time. But one of the good things to come out of the pandemic, very few, is getting to connect with lifelong learners. So lots of presentations for public libraries or other organizations. So very excited to be back here for my second presentation for the Tewksbury Library. So without further ado, As Robert mentioned, the Clinton Library is part of the Clinton Presidential Center, which includes the library, the Clinton Foundation offices, Little Rock offices, and the Clinton School of Public Service. So the reason I say Clinton Foundation Little Rock offices is the main offices for the Clinton Foundation are actually in New York. And the people that work there really focus on the work that the Clinton Foundation does related to health security, economics, a whole lot of different initiatives, including the Clinton Climate Initiative and something they call CGI, which is the Clinton Global Initiative. So the Clinton Foundation works around the globe. The people who work here in Little Rock focus on supporting the library, and they do that through support for exhibits and also public programs, and most importantly, education programs. Now, the Clinton School of Public Service is a part of the University of Arkansas, and when it opened in 2004, 2005, it was the first school in the country to offer a degree, a master's degree in public service as opposed to public administration. There are folks who do a dual degree. You can do a public service master's with a public health master's. We also have folks who do a public service master's and a JD, so they get a law degree as well. But we're going to focus first and foremost on what you would see if you came to visit. And you can come to visit. So the library reopened to the public November 1st. We had some occupancy limits in place, and it was you had to buy your tickets in advance, and it's a limited capacity, all of that. As of March 28th, we have no occupancy limits. So we are open 7 days a week, Monday through Saturday, all day, 9 to 5, and then Sunday in the afternoon. We're only closed on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. And, you know, I think we have raised our prices since I updated the slideshow. So don't look too carefully at those. All right. So if you were approaching the library, and this is what if you go back to that first slide, this is the front of our building. It is designed to look like a bridge to the 21st century. That's how President Clinton saw his 8 years in office. So really planning for that next century. So if you were to come in the front doors, you would be in our lobby, and you would see our museum store. And if you went downstairs like I did about an hour ago, you would be at our on-site restaurant, which is 42 Bar and Table. I had a delicious burger. I was telling Robert, I'm glad that this is virtual, because I had onions on my burger and I didn't have a chance to brush my teeth. The other thing, so there's an indoor and an outdoor part to 42. You're able to overlook the Arkansas River. In terms of exhibits, the exhibits that you would see on the ground level are limited to one, but it is pretty spectacular. It is an actual presidential limousine that was put in service at the start of the Clinton administration, and not given, but loaned by the Secret Service before the library opened in 2004. So we opened November 18th, 2004. And you can see here, picture of the limousine, but you can also see these gentlemen here with hard hats working on getting the limousine into place. The little nook underneath the escalators where they decided to put it was pretty challenging, because if you think about a vehicle, right, and forget the whole crab walk thing, because presidential limousines don't do that, but think old school. So think about trying to parallel park a presidential limousine that's not running. You don't have gas and oil and power steering fluid in a museum. So they had to push it into place. And you can see in the photo on the left and the photo on the right that we have a lovely marble floor in the lobby. And so that center photo shows you that they put plywood down so that the limousine didn't damage it. Presidential limousine is much heavier than a standard vehicle. All right. So not a lot to see on the first floor. So going up to the second floor, we have an orientation theater that plays a 12-minute film every 20 minutes. And if we have time at the end, actually we will make time, I can help you find that through a Clinton Center app. So you can actually watch the video on your phone. So surrounding the orientation theater are photographs from the 1992 campaign. And then there's an exhibit you see here where we can see some of those campaign buttons. There's a great sticker that kind of looks at, when President Clinton ran in 1991, 1992, he was the governor of Arkansas. So a group of Arkansans banded together and went to different states with early primaries and caucuses and said, hey, I want to go door to door. I want to tell people about the great job that President Clinton did as governor. So that's a button or sticker that they would have worn. Ask me about my governor. And if you're wondering who this little fella is here with the orange face, that is a flat Stanley. And we can talk about flat Stanley later. It's a thing that students do. They send a flat Stanley to places that they would like to visit. So we've had several flat Stanleys here at the library. All right, so moving north on the second floor, the next thing that you would see would be our cabinet room replica. It is a full-size replica of the cabinet room. And you can see here, we have a table. This cabinet room table was actually made by the craftspeople who made the actual cabinet room table. And they were none too pleased when they found out that we were going to cut holes in it. What you see, these screens are touch screens, and you can learn about every person who served in President Clinton's cabinet. And you can also look at 3 different decisions. 3 different sets of decisions that they talked about in the cabinet room. And so this is a great place. Kids love this. You can go in and you can sit down. And I want to point out that although we tend to think of the person who's in charge or the guest of honor sitting at the head of the table, the president's chair is right here in the middle. And if you look really closely, you can see that chair is a little bit taller, about 2 inches taller than the other chairs. And another way, another visual cue are the flags. And this blue flag has the presidential seal on it. I'm sure you recognize the flag on the left as the American flag. So moving north again, so the Arkansas River divides Little Rock from North Little Rock, and the Clinton Presidential Center is oriented. The library building is oriented so north to south so that it sticks out a little bit over the river. Not a whole lot. The original design was actually that it would extend further, and post 9/11 the decision was made to kind of pull that back a little bit from the river. But what you see there is an 8-year administrative timeline. So they're large blocks. You see here the 1993 block, and typically there's a quote from the State of the Union. In this case, in 1993, it was a quote from President Clinton's inaugural address. And if you look at these notebooks right here, these are the president's official daily schedules for every day that he was in office. Those have been digitized along with the schedules for the First Lady, and those are available on our digital library. So at the end of the presentation, I will point you to those resources. On the back of these big blocks, they're touch screens where you can look at the president's schedule for every day that he was in office. But there are also great letters, correspondence between the president. In this case, this is, it's Effie, but it's either Dear Abby or Ann Landers, and I can never remember which one it is, but you know that they were twins. But this is a letter to Hillary from one of them. All right, and on either side of the timeline are these policy alcoves. So these kind of, you walk into the space and you're looking at a specific issue in depth. So on the left-hand side of your screen, that one is called Learning Across a Lifetime. And so it's all about education policy. The one on the right-hand side of your screen is called Protecting the Earth. So it's all about environmental policies. And you may have picked up that the ones on the west side of the library have a carpeted presidential seal with a bamboo renewable resource, a bamboo floor, and then the ones on the east side have a dark blue carpet. All right, and the last thing that you see before going up the stairs on the north end of the building, which looks out onto the Arkansas River, is an exhibit about the Little Rock Nine. So in 1954, the Supreme Court decided that separate schools, separate facilities were inherently unequal and ordered for the desegregation of schools across the nation. Little Rock, Arkansas, 1957, September, is thought to be the real first big challenge to that. So the governor of Arkansas prevented 9 students from entering the school on September 4th or 5th. I think it was the 4th, 1957. And it was 3 weeks past negotiations between Governor Faubus, President Eisenhower, ended up that President Eisenhower actually sent in the 101st Airborne to escort the 9 students into previously all-white Little Rock Central High School. And when President Clinton was governor of Arkansas, he commemorated the 30th anniversary of the Central High crisis. And as governor, he invited the Little Rock Nine to the governor's mansion. There was a ceremony at the school. 10 years later, 1997, President Clinton came to Little Rock to commemorate the 40th anniversary. So this is President Clinton as president. He declared Little Rock Central High a National Historic Site. So it's now part of the Park Service with a visitor center. The school itself is still in use. It is a huge school. If you ever make it to Little Rock, we want you to visit the library, but also highly recommend visiting Little Rock Central High School. The Little Rock Nine were awarded the Congressional Gold Medal, and several years later, so you see President Clinton presenting, this is Elizabeth Eckford. He's presenting her the Congressional Gold Medal, and this is what the medal looks like on the front. And on the back, it is gold. The photo here is silver. This is actually from the original design, which is why it's a different color, but it's gold on both sides. And that's them walking up the steps, and then the reverse is their names. President Clinton was allowed to present their Congressional Gold Medals to them. Years later, they gave him one. So that's what these students are looking at here. They're actually looking at one of the Congressional Gold Medals given to the Little Rock Nine. So if you were here, we would pause halfway up the stairs and look out onto the Arkansas River. It's a beautiful day here. It's a little chilly. And when we got to the top of the stairs, we would have 2 choices. So this is where we would be. And we could either go to the left or to the right. But I want to talk about these columns here. There are 9 columns on either side of the museum. They go from the ceiling on the 3rd floor all the way to the floor on the 2nd floor. And these blue boxes with presidential seals on them in gold, they contain actual presidential records. So a presidential library is both a museum, which is what we're touring today, and an archive. So a place where important records are maintained and made available to the public. And part of the design inspiration that resulted in these columns came from Trinity College in Dublin. So this is a place where President Clinton would have visited when he was a Rhodes Scholar. And this is called the Long Room, this black and white photograph here, and you can see the similarity. So we chose to go left or to the east. And so we're looking at a table set for a state dinner. And this is the china on the table here was created for the 200th anniversary of the White House. So that was celebrated, commemorated during the Clinton administration. And here are a couple of gifts, what we call head of state gifts. So these gifts actually belong to you and to me, rather than gifts being to the president or first lady. They are to one country from another, accepted by the first family on our behalf. One of my favorite gifts, it might seem odd, but it is this rock here. President Clinton had a great relationship with President Nelson Mandela. He visited Mandela in 1998, and together they toured Robben Island, which is where Mandela was imprisoned for opposing apartheid. And it was a labor prison. The prisoners broke rocks, and this is a rock from Robben Island. You can tell it's very nicely displayed. It's in a little box and it has a little velvet material underneath it, but it's still odd to say that one of my favorite gifts is a rock. All right. So when the Clintons left Arkansas, they moved out of the governor's mansion. So they did not have a home in Arkansas to come back to. So it was really important to make the White House feel like home. And so here we see some sports memorabilia, we see some fun art, and what you can't see behind them are some saxophones. I will note that Chelsea Clinton was 12 years old when her father was elected president. So imagine, you've grown up now. She was the daughter of the governor and lived in the governor's mansion, but still, that's got to be a tough transition to make. Then the next set of exhibits look at celebrations at the White House. I pulled some slides to really think about spring celebrations. So yes, that is the back of my head and my finger pointing at some elaborately decorated Easter eggs. So those are eggs with faces of different presidents on them. And if that wasn't impressive enough, on the reverse are the corresponding first ladies. You see a tree. This is called the Tree of Light. This is made by glass artist Dale Chapuli. And probably my favorite artifact or set of artifacts on the third floor are going to be crystal bowls made by Waterford, presented by the Prime Minister of Ireland to the president each year on St. Patrick's Day. And so that is known as the Shamrock Ceremony. So President Clinton had 8 of those. So we have 8 elaborate, each one different, crystal bowls. And it's interesting, I did a presentation on this. There were actually 3 different prime ministers during that time. And then, there's an even better picture of the Tree of Light. We have gifts from citizens of the United States. And so people from all over the country send gifts to the president, and it might be something that they made. I don't know if you can see this tiny little Abraham Lincoln doll. This bicycle is great. It is a 1947 ladies Schwinn. Why 47? Well, President Clinton was born in 46, but Hillary Clinton was born in 47. So this is her bicycle. We have one very similar, which is a boy's 1946 Schwinn. And you can't tell from this photograph, but this is a stool that actually has a little back on it that makes it look like a giant saxophone. So all kinds of quirky things. So moving south on the 3rd floor, we come to this space, temporary gallery. So we create exhibits in-house. We also bring in traveling exhibits. Right before the pandemic shut us down, November of 2019, we opened an exhibit called Like It's 1999, American Pop Culture of the 90s. And so we had things about books and fashion and movies and TV and music. And I think my favorite part of that temporary exhibit was the technology section, taking students through there and showing them ads for a pager where you could send information through a payphone, because they didn't know what a pager was. They didn't know what a payphone was. So that was a lot of fun. And then the grand finale. I always take people through the library, starting on the 2nd floor, moving south to north, go up on the north end, and then move north to south, so that the grand finale is our full-size replica of the Oval Office. The great thing about this is you can actually go into the Oval Office. You can have a seat at the desk and you can have your picture made. One of the things that I like to talk about in the Oval Office is thinking about the artwork, including three-dimensional paintings, sculptures. The president gets to decorate the Oval Office. The president gets to choose the color scheme. President Clinton worked with an Arkansas designer named Khaki Hockersmith, and they put in this beautiful rug with the presidential seal, and they chose these bright colors, the gold and the red. But I like thinking about the messages that the president is sending with the artwork that he selects. It's a little small, but on the left-hand side of the desk, you see a Child Hassan. That painting is called Avenue in the Rain. It is 5th Avenue. Those are American flags. It's an impressionist style. And that was painted around the end of World War I. And then on the right-hand side of the desk, the Resolute desk, and yes, ours is a replica. Everything in our Oval Office is a replica because we do let people go inside. On the right-hand side is a painting of the Statue of Liberty done by Norman Rockwell following the end of World War II. And it's kind of an odd view of the Statue of Liberty because you just see a little bit of her head, her arm, and the torch. And there are men working on the torch, a diverse group of men, and it really symbolizes rebuilding our nation after World War II. The interesting thing is there was not work being done on the Statue of Liberty. This is just a metaphor that Rockwell thought of. And then on the right-hand side of your screen, you see what you would see if you were sitting at the desk. George Washington above the mantle. The collection of the White House includes several portraits of George Washington, so the president gets to pick the one that he prefers. All right, so as I mentioned, you can get your picture made behind the desk in the Oval Office. This is me with some of my friends who are Brownies. This was a Girl Scout event. So we were having a grand old time in the Oval Office replica. All right, so I mentioned being able to look at President Clinton's schedules online. So we have two websites. We have clintonlibrary.gov, which is our traditional website. There's great information there. But then we also have the Clinton Digital Library. And the Clinton Digital Library is where you can find those schedules for President Clinton, for Hillary Rodham Clinton as First Lady. All of the records that have been reviewed, released, and digitized are available on our digital library. So it's a great place to go and really kind of dig into the Clinton presidency, kind of go behind the scenes. Yesterday, I was pulling some records related to mental health, and I knew that that President Clinton convened the first presidential conference on mental health in 1999, but I did not, but I was also able to look at the initial planning of that conference, look at documents initially proposing that idea. The other place that's a great place to visit is our YouTube channel. So our YouTube channel has all kinds of videos that were produced by White House videographers. So some of the most popular are videos of the 1993 and 1997 inaugurations. Also some great videos. I really enjoy watching the nomination of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I showed a little bit of that one at the presentation I gave last month. And then we also have a social media presence. So that's a great place to know about things that we're doing, programs that we're offering. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All right, I think that's the last slide. So I'm going to flip back to my Girl Scout photo. And all right, this is one of my favorite questions. Okay, so the question is, does the desk in the replica of the Oval Office contain any secret compartments? I can tell you that the replica desk does not contain any secret compartments. Now, I used to say that I wasn't sure about the real Resolute desk because I'd never been in the Oval Office. I was able to go into the Oval Office, very, very quick trip, and see the Resolute desk in person. However, I did not have an opportunity to climb underneath it. That was back in 2018. So I can neither confirm nor deny the presence of secret panels and secret compartments in the actual Resolute desk. But our replica does not have secret panels.
And Kathleen, before you go any further, I'm going to stop recording for the Q&A.
Okay.
And just to note, folks, if you have any questions or comments, please get them into the chat or the Q&A. We can take at least 10 minutes of questions. So
Awesome.
let me pause here.